this. It was a kitchen area, and I'm looking at the kitchen. I said, I don't know where I'm at. This is very different, very strange. And I looked around in the kitchen, and I know I'm someplace different. I don't know where I'm at. So I looked out through the window, and there was a big evergreen tree, and I couldn't see past that. And so I moved across through the kitchen over into this other room, and there was a memorial of this individual who evidently was a soldier. And I could see the UF flag, and I could see all the medals that the individual had. I saw the rifle that was right beside the table. So there was this memorial for this soldier. And I come walking back into the kitchen, looking around again. And again, the kitchen was older, it wasn't modern at all. And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden I get this feeling that, oh, the family's coming in. And all of a sudden here comes the kids, and one of the kids like looked at me and freaked out and ran off, and the other little boy kind of walked off. And then I go, uh-oh, here comes the parents. And when they started walking in, I instantly started saying, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. And I see the wife come in, and she had one of these very old sundresses on. And she kind of walks by, and then the husband walks up. And for some reason or another, I was very clear of where I was at the time. And I asked him, I said, what year is this? Because I'm looking around trying to figure out where I'm at. And he said, 1917. And that's when I kind of like freaked, and I woke up out of my experience.
Wow. Wow.
And that was very, very strange. And again, I'm thinking maybe that was a past life of mine, and that the memorial was me, and I don't know who the memorial for as the soldier, So, and then why would I say don't shoot, don't shoot, because I'm feeling that something happened in that room. And it's just one of those very strange experiences. I mean, it was so real, though. I mean, everything was so real.
Yeah. Wow.
So,
that's amazing. Fred, thank you so much for being on the program.
Absolutely.
Appreciate your time. And I will have you back again. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye. Okay, James, we have something to talk about. You have an absolutely mind-blowing story to share. You had several real time travel experiences, but they were planned ahead of time. So take it away. Tell me, how did this come about? How did you first hear about it and get everything set up to do this?
Okay. In 1968, I used to go shoot trap and skeet at a range in Raytown, Missouri. And I noticed that there was always a gentleman always watching me shoot. Now, I was still in college at this time. And then I started seeing this gentleman in a lot of places that I would go. And I always had a propensity to use antique weapons, but just not really antique, 100 years ago. I used to like to make spears and from the scouts and tie spear points on them. And then I got pretty accurate in being able to throw these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day I was in a gun dealer in Kansas City, Missouri, that's no longer in business. And he came up to me and he said, I know you can do skeet, things like that. How would you like the most interesting adventure you'll ever have? And I'm thinking, well, hell yeah, that sounds like I would really like to do that. And he said, I'm going to get back to you. And a long story short on that, Margie, I was asked to go on a hunt. And this hunt was going to take 1,200 years in the past into the just at the end of the Ice Age, down in central Missouri, about 5 miles west of the old town of Fairfield, Missouri. And
wow.
And that's how it started.
When you first heard that, did you think that was real? Do you think they were serious or joking?
A little bit of both. but he was so sincere in what he said, and he would follow up with me on this. And I was always skeptical, as anybody would be. But at that age, you want to do things differently. Now, it took him almost 3 years to really convince me. But he finally did it. And I started my first adventure in 1973. And it was the adventure of a lifetime. But there were some things that I had to do, Margie, before I was able to do this. The first thing was I had to have a complete physical, and I mean a complete physical. I could not take any. I could not take any prescribed medications like I do now. I couldn't go like I am now. I could and I had no trouble doing this. You had to be able to throw a stone-tipped spear at least 30 yards accurately. You could not have any dental fillings. I don't believe it or not.
Oh,
and you had, 12,000 years ago, who had any dental fillings?
Well, I wonder, that makes me wonder about the process of getting to that. If the dental fillings wouldn't have had some reaction to that process of the time travel.
I never thought about that, but that very well could have been.
That's
I never
the first
thought
thing
of it.
that came to my mind. Yeah.
Also, I had to be able to run or walk or a combination, a 8-minute mile to 10-minute mile. You had to be able to do that. And the last thing that you had to do, you had to pay a fee for a drawing, just like you do in the conservation departments around the countries now. When there's a special hunt, you had to have it go into the drawing, and it wasn't inexpensive. In the 1973, I had to fork up $2,000 paid in cash to a bank courier. No money orders. So they didn't want us to be able to trace any foreign funds back to anyone in this.
Okay.
And I did the same thing in 1974, 1975, and in 1977.
So you had several trips back in time, 1,200 years.
Yes, ma'am.
Wow. So how did you go through this process of going back in time?
Say that again to me.
Well, what was the process? How did you, after you arrived at the location, how did you go back in time?
Oh, that's an interesting story in its own. When we were allowed to do this, but there's things beforehand. Before we could go back, we had to have period clothes of that time. And now, as you think about it, what do you think people were wearing 12,000 years ago? And who was going to make those clothes? Well, what we had to do was Timothy was the gentleman's name who I had contact with. He would come to our home where I was living at that time, and he brought in sinew, and he measured me for the length of the trousers. Well, I'm going to say they were kind of a coverall affair, my shirt size and things like that. And then he would take these measurements back to the village or clan that we were going to go to. And the women, as he told me, and as I found out for real, that the women made those clothes for us, and they were made, and he had them for us 3 months before we could go, so he could look and make sure they were made properly.
Wow.
And they were stuffed with grasses and feathers from geese. And there were a lot of geese. I mean, Margie, there's so many huge animals there. It was not anything for us not to see elk, Irish elk, mammoth, short bear, faced bear, lynx, the biggest lynx I ever saw in my life. I saw there wolves. We saw prints of a cave lion on several occasions, and all kinds of birds. It was just an amazing place to go, and it was full of life. But the place that we were going to at the spring, as a matter of fact, Margie, I found the spring that we went to all those years in the time travel, and it was still there before it was covered up by the backup of the Truba Dam over the city of Fairfield. It was just an amazing place.
Now, when you were back in time, was that location the same location physically, or a different place?
You mean when each time that we had to go back?
Yeah, each time you went back, would it have still been in the state of Missouri where 12,000 years ago? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, in the same general area. And it was a boggy region at that time. And it was primarily white spruce and black spruce trees that were there. But it was boggy, but not boggy like you would think. And we were in a hunting camp, as you would say. But there was all kind. It was interesting. The hunting at that time was a communal thing. The women went, the men went, and the children went, and all had a place in the hunt. It was an amazing thing to do, watch actually.
So, I got so many questions. So where did you stay? How long did you stay each time, and where did you live?
Okay. You had to commit to be gone for 8 days. So each trip was 8 days. We started at the spring, but in the village that would the clan's homes, and they were not unlike the Iroquois homes that you see in the round houses, not teepees or anything like that. And then we went out on the second day. Oh, I'm going to have to say this, but we had to get the rules of the clan and follow the rules of the clan. And we were told that through our interpreters that was there with us.
And what were the rules?
Not to give people direct eye contact when you're answering their questions, to be respectful to the people, be cognizant of the people that were injured or old, and give them respect. It was amazing. It was almost like how we would like to live today.
And so did you stay in their houses?
No, we stayed in the long houses, in the long house. When we went on the hunting expeditions, we made camp in the area that we were going to hunt in. And we took the dogs, which were more like wolves. They're the hugest dogs I've ever seen in my life. And we're warned that not to play with the dogs. They were not what you would necessarily want to have as your pet back when you go back on your where you're living. And they called us the pale, tall hunters because we were much paler than they were. You know, they lived outside all the time. We live inside, basically.
So what did these people look like?
They were about 5'8", about my size or just a little bit shorter. They were muscular, and they had more of a oriental appearance to me than they did any other thing like that. It was more of a matriarchal society. I had the definite impression that there was a head man, but his wife or the person ran the show. And there was another thing that was interesting about them. There was a lady, an older woman, who was a soothsayer or a seer, and that person would have to see if there's any danger that was going to be and come to any of us on the hunt. And they followed what that lady said. And she was pretty doggone accurate in her seeing the future and things like that.
Wow.
She had a name, and they called her the Kututi. And she was there for 3 of the years, and in the interim between the last time I visited, she passed away.
Okay. When you were visiting, did these people know that you were time travelers?
No, they not. They were just told that we were hunters from afar, from the north, and that we were coming here as the guest of Matuk, our guides, and we were, to be given respect. But that's what they were told. They had no idea where we were from. No, none whatsoever. The clothing, I have to tell you, it was interesting. They made our shoes and boots beaver tail on the soles. And you know what? By golly, they were pretty good in that boggy cell. It was amazing.
Wow. This is so wild, and I've got a million questions about it. Let's go back for a minute to the beginning, to when you're in this time period and you're at the place where you're going to go. How did you get to 12,000 years ago?
Okay. We had to go to a home. It was in the southeast part of the city. I'm not going to tell you the street was on. And when we came in, there were myself and 3 other gentlemen that were going. We did not know each other. When we got there, we were handed the instructions that we were going to follow. And the instructions were we had to bring a suitcase with us, a large suitcase. When we got there, they took the suitcase with us away from us and took us and put them in separate rooms. And then we came back to like the living room, and we were handed a paper, and we had to fill out a will.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We had to fill out a will.
Just in case, huh?
Well, yes, because they're going to, and they explained to us your body would not be brought back. That would be it.
Oh.
But you had to have a will. When the will was done, we were taken to separate rooms, and we were given another physical just to be sure that you were healthy. But before that, we had to take this round of shots that was prescribed by the United States government when you were traveling to Africa at that time or into South America. Now, I was lucky. In 1968, I was able to, one of my friends who was from Nigeria was studying business administration here in the country at our university. Margie Buse and I both went to the same one, Central Missouri State. And so he asked me if he would you like to come to where I live and see my home? And so his father, they owned a huge game ranch. I mean, monstrous thing. And I was able to go to Africa and in Nigeria and spend the summer with this gentleman and young man. And I was able to get my shots beforehand. I only had to go get a couple boosters. I think it was for beriberi or things like that. And I forgot the rest of your question. I'm sorry.
Well, we're doing the prep work. You're getting ready to go to the other side. I want to know the process of how you got from here to there.
Okay. After that, we had to take off your any jewelry you had. If you had wedding rings, they ask you not to take it off about 2 months ahead of time, so that the people will not see that ring around your arm, your finger.
Oh,
yeah. All you couldn't take anything back that was modern. Any kind of knife or anything like that. Any kind of button. If you wore glasses, you had to leave the glasses. How many people 12,000 years ago had glasses?
Right.
You know?
Right.
And then we were given our clothes, our period clothes, and we were led to a door, which this looked like a regular door, and it looked like on the other side of the door was the other part of the house. But we were said that when you pass through the door slowly, that Matuk would be on the other side to greet you. It seemed like you just walk through the door, but the gentleman and I talked before when we got there, it must have taken us 10 minutes to go through that door. But to us, it was just like 2 or 3 seconds as you walk through the door. But when we got on the other side, we were greeted by a cold climate. But the one thing that I remember the very first time was the air was so beautifully clean and smelled so clean. It was the one thing I could take from it. I had never experienced anything like that, even in the mountains. It was the most wonderful smelling air, and it was so full of oxygen. It was just unbelievable. And it was loud too, that you could hear the animals and things like that. And that's how we got through.
Did this person who met you know that you were time travelers?
Yes, he knew.
Oh, he did.
He knew.
So he was from that time period, and he understood that.
Yes. Yes, he did.
So was this kind of like a Stargate?
Probably. Yes, I would say so. Yeah, you ever watch the Star Trek where they had when they were going back in time to escape the planet's demise?
Yes, yes.
That's how I would describe it.
Okay, so this door was actually in a house.
Yes,
that you walked through. Oh my gosh. I thought for some reason that this was out in the woods, in the fields or something, and there's a special portal there. This is in a house. So that portal to time had to have been created by someone or something. Do you think it was a naturally occurring thing, or do you think they made it?
Oh, gee, that's a good question. I'm almost sure they had to make that because, you just don't have something like that occur in a home. Now, how do we got back? We got back through almost like a, how Sasquatch build the tree.
Yeah, the arches.
We went through an arch to get back.
Oh boy. Yeah, I tell you what, that is right. And the reason I know that's right is because we were on a Sasquatch adventure, an exploration, and I wanted to know why these arches were happening. And the message I got was that this was how they created a portal, so that they could walk through dimensions. So that is walking through time, though. That's just amazing. Absolutely mind-blowing that could occur.
It was amazing. It was kind of scary, but it wasn't. It was eye-opening that you could actually do this. And the one thing that I have to tell you, I've always been fascinated with the stars in the sky. And at night, of course, you could imagine the only thing where you would have for light would be the campfires, which burned all night long because of the different wildlife around. But the North Star wasn't this North Star that we have today. And the Big Dipper was not in the same position that we had because of the tilt of the Earth. And I had another friend of mine, Larry. He has a program that would let me see what the stars looked like at that time. And by God, he nailed it. That's exactly where the North Star was at that time. It was just
so that's proof right there that really occurred. So you said that there were 3 of you men that went there. The only person that knows about this on the other side is your guide, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then for the week, you did a hunt. And so were you able to get anything while you were there?
Yes.
Okay. What did you see? What did you do?
Well, we didn't see. We saw lots of lynx. We saw a lot of beaver. But I'll tell you about how the hunt went for the mammoth, and I'll tell you about the. We got time. We would herd the mammoth into a bog that was deep, and what we did, we wouldn't take the youngest one, nor the middle-aged one. We would take the oldest male of the group to make sure. And they did that because they knew that you didn't take the females and you didn't take the breeders, the young men, to make the new babies. When the mammoth got into the bog, you would come up with your spear and you wouldn't try to kill him with the spear. What you did, you would cut the major arteries, like in the leg or on the side of his head or in his back haunches, and you let him bleed. And when the mammoth had enough loss of blood, he would fall over. And then one of the other young men, they were between like 18 to 25, they would come up and kill the animal with a spear point into the heart or into the head. And that's how we would do it. And then the women would come up. The women came up and butchered the animals. They came up and did that.
I believe that's how the Native Americans used to do it as well. That it was the women who did that part.
Now, the interesting, when we hunted the Irish elk, we made a funnel. And the young men who were chosen to do this, it was kind of a rite of passage for these men, that they were the drivers, and they would drive these elk down the funnel. And when they were starting to get close to us, then we would actually throw your spear. We didn't use addles. There were no addles used. They didn't have a bow and arrow or anything like that. It was all through spears. And we would kill them in that manner. And those young men, it was a great honor for them to be selected as a driver. And they were, in the end of the hunt, they went through a process to become men. And that was one of the things that they had to be accomplished at.
Okay, that makes sense. How many people know about this?
I know 8 people that know about it.
And have you been in contact with any of them since the last time you went on the hunt?
3 are dead, and I know I've talked to 5 of them, and within the last 5 years.
Okay, and do they pretty much keep quiet about it? Because this is something that I never heard of until I spoke with you about it.
Well, I think that it all depends on who you want to tell and who you don't want to tell. You're the first person that I ever felt that I could comfortably talk to about it, other than Margaret and my first wife, Denise, because I felt safe in being able to talk to this group. Well,
now everybody is going to know about it.
I guess. Oh, and let me tell you, I made a dictionary of their.
Oh, yes. What were some of the words that they used?
Oh, okay. Ikatik was my name, and it meant an asker of questions. Would you say that's about right?
Yes, definitely.
And the chief was a Adatik, son of Adakak. Aka was water. Actually, Batu was hat or hair covering. Danger was Daguk. And when they said that word, you stopped and made sure you looked around to see what the danger was. Agato was a bear, short-faced bear. I'm not going to say every all to you, Margie. I'll go down here and let's enemy or danger was Arkut. Pants, Revolda. Sleep, Musgug. Elk is Soba. Rila is coat or shirt. Spear is Rapan. And if you'd like a list, Margie, if anybody wants to send emails to you, I'll make a copy of the dictionary I made in 73 and 74, and they can have a copy of it if they like.
Well, I'll tell you what, James, I think a book is about to come out of this one way or another. I will get it out of you because this is absolutely fascinating. And I think a time travel book is a must-have, and this has got to be included in it. I'm wondering, while you were over there in that time period, did anybody or any members of your party speak English in front of this group or the tribe, clan of people?
Well, our interpreter had to. He had to hear what I was saying, so he could tell them. And then he had to speak to me in English. Now he didn't speak Spanish. I could have done that, or French at the time. I could have spoken to him in German, but he spoke to me in English.
He spoke to you in English.
Yes.
So evidently somebody had to teach him English at some point.
Yes. That always was. Timothy had to have gone back and forth all the time to take the measurements back, to come back with our clothes that were hanging when we got to the house. He had to be going back and forth all the time. He just had to. They just don't. That just doesn't occur. But
did this man Timothy ever give you an idea of how he came across this, or how the portal was created? Did he ever tell you anything about that? Any details?
No, not one word about it. He just said, when you walk through the door, you will be there, and Matuk will be there to greet you.
Okay.
That's the only thing he ever told us.
Wow. It would be so interesting to speak with him and find out, how this all worked. I mean, it's just fascinating. The fact that it's possible makes you wonder how many other people would possibly know about this. Would the government know that this is possible? And how many people are time traveling back and forth all the time?
Well, the possibilities are endless on that. And I think it happens a lot more than you know. I really do. I don't know whether we can go forward in time, but if you can go backwards, maybe you can go forward as well.
Well, it's just fascinating stuff. We are going to have to wrap it up here in just a minute, but James, can I twist your arm and get a book out of you about this, or at least have you include a chapter?
Sure, no problem. That would be a good thing for me to do.
I think so. I really think you owe it to humanity to let the world know that this is real and it can happen.
Well, I thank you for asking me to do this. I do. I really do.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the show, and I will see you in a few minutes when we do the MUFON World UFO Day, which is going to occur in just a few minutes. Thanks so much, James. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
All right. Well, that was James Bair and of course, Fred Zooey. I really appreciate both of them coming on the program tonight to discuss time travel, which is one of my favorite subjects. Obviously, you know why, because I told you my stories earlier. I haven't told you all of them, but I'll save that for the book. So we are going to wrap it up for this evening. Thank you for watching the program, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, UnX News, and so that you'll get notices about future events. We are here every Friday at 5 p.m. Central Time live, and you can also listen to the archives or watch the archives anytime. Visit my website at margiekay.com, also unxnews.com. UnXmedia.com is where I have my books and where I publish other books for other people as well. And we've got some new ones coming up real soon. I'll be talking about that on the next broadcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to the UnX News Podcast with Margie Kay. Any rebroadcast or duplication of this program or its content without express written permission from Margie Kay is strictly prohibited. The UnX News Podcast, in direct cooperation with the internet website margiekay.com.